It all started with a split that no one saw coming, at least not from the outside. For years, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were known to rub shoulders with global power couples, and none were more high-profile than David and Victoria Beckham. The two families had once shared public smiles, mutual support, and the polished charm of British celebrity diplomacy. But now, that picture-perfect alliance has quietly shattered and, if the whispers are true, it wasn't the Sussexes who walked away. According to royal commentator Lady C, David and Victoria were the ones who pulled the plug on the friendship, and they did so without much fanfare. Behind the scenes, things had reportedly soured to the point where the Beckhams had simply had enough. The reason? A pattern of behavior from Harry and Meghan that left even seasoned media veterans shaking their heads. Accusations of paranoia, controlling tendencies, and constant victimhood followed the Sussexes like a storm cloud, and the Beckhams were tired of standing in the rain. But what really sent Prince Harry over the edge was what happened after the Invictus Games. Invictus was Harry's baby, his pride and joy. A project born from his personal connection to wounded veterans and his drive to build something meaningful beyond the royal family. It was supposed to be the one thing that remained untouchable, the last pillar of purpose after his split from the monarchy. But even that, it seems, is slipping through his fingers. The Invictus Games Committee made a bold decision to bring in David Beckham as the new public face of the 2026 Games, a man with international star power, a spotless public image, and the rare ability to rise above controversy. Beckham represents exactly what the Games needed: credibility, admiration, and unity. For Harry, the decision wasn't just a professional blow, it was personal, deeply personal. Reports claim Harry was livid. Sources close to the committee say the choice came after months of internal frustration. While Harry brought attention to the event, much of it was the wrong kind. Tabloid drama, tense public appearances, and the constant swirl of Sussex-related controversy had begun to overshadow the mission of Invictus itself. In contrast, Beckham's presence offered something different: calm consistency, admiration, and no hidden agenda. Behind closed doors, the Beckhams had apparently grown tired of the drama too. One insider put it bluntly: "Why waste time on people who always see themselves as victims?" It was a harsh statement, but one that seemed to echo the growing public sentiment. Adding to the tension were rumors that Meghan had deliberately prevented David Beckham from being photographed with Harry at previous Invictus events. Allegedly, she feared the Beckhams would outshine her and didn't want any attention slipping away from the Sussex spotlight. That decision, if true, only deepened the wedge. To some, it revealed a pattern controlling the narrative, managing appearances, and protecting an image at all costs. But this time, the image cracked. And the Beckhams, they didn't just walk away, they rose above it. While Harry and Meghan continued to navigate a media landscape filled with scrutiny and spin, David Beckham has emerged as a steady, universally admired figure, not just a sports icon, but a humanitarian, a family man, and now symbolically, the new face of the very cause Harry once claimed as his own. And just like that, the Sussexes lost more than a friendship. They lost control of the spotlight. For Prince Harry, Invictus wasn't just another royal engagement, it was the one project that gave him purpose outside of the palace walls. It was personal, a legacy, the thing he believed would outlast the headlines and define his post-royal identity. But now, even that legacy is slipping out of his hands. What began as a noble, veteran-focused initiative is now quietly cracking under pressure. And at the center of it all is a story no one in the Sussex camp wants to talk about. Sources inside the Invictus Games Foundation have reportedly grown tired of the non-stop media circus, tired of the drama that always seems to follow Harry and Meghan, and tired of watching what was once a celebration of courage and healing become a tabloid headline generator. And the final straw. It wasn't just the endless distractions. It was the feeling that the mission of Invictus had been hijacked. Behind the scenes, insiders say the event started to feel less like a platform for wounded warriors and more like a stage for Harry and Meghan's personal brand. Photographers no longer focused solely on athletes. Instead, lenses tracked Meghan's wardrobe, facial expressions, and every curated interaction. Speeches that were meant to uplift veterans sometimes took unexpected turns, highlighting the Sussexes themselves more than the stories of the people Invictus was built for. There were even whispers that Meghan took it upon herself to adjust the positioning of guests for the perfect photo opportunity, physically moving people, interrupting moments just to get the right image for the cameras. It may seem small, but to many, it spoke volumes. The focus wasn't on veterans, it was on optics. And then came the Beckhams. When the Games decided to shift their focus towards someone like David Beckham, a universally admired figure with a stable reputation, wasn't just a rebranding decision, it was a rescue mission. The The organization needed to save itself from being overshadowed by personal drama, and Beckham, with his global appeal and zero tabloid chaos, was the perfect antidote. To Harry, that decision felt like betrayal, but to others involved, it was just business. The Games couldn't afford another year of being eclipsed by royal tension. They needed someone who brought attention to the athletes, not themselves. And yet, losing Invictus wasn't just a PR blow for Harry, it was emotional. This was the one arena where he felt he had built something entirely his own, free from the palace machine. Watching that identity unravel publicly, especially after years of watching his other ventures fizzle out, was more than a setback. It was a humiliation. The message was clear. Harry no longer represented the future of Invictus. In the eyes of the committee, drama had replaced dignity, and now they were moving on. But if the cracks at Invictus hurt Harry, what was about to surface next would shake Meghan's image to its core. Now, let's be clear from the start. Meghan Markle was never seen with Jeffrey Epstein. There's no photo, no direct tie, no headline-grabbing moment that puts them in the same room. But that's not the full story. Because when you start following the social breadcrumbs, things start to feel a little too close for comfort. Long before she married into royalty, Meghan was navigating a world filled with fame, yachts, and quiet connections. A world where who you knew meant everything, and where certain names kept popping up again and again. Names that, years later, would become synonymous with scandal. Meghan's defenders say it's all coincidence, that she was just another actress climbing the ladder, showing up where the cameras were. But when you look closer, the overlaps become impossible to ignore. During her pre-royal years, Meghan was frequently spotted in elite circles parties in Cannes, exclusive beach gatherings in Monte Carlo, private boats off the Amalfi Coast. These weren't thousand-person charity galas, these were tight-knit invite-only weekends hosted by the ultra-rich. And some of the people invited to those same yachts and villas were the very figures later exposed as Epstein's closest associates. Ghislaine Maxwell, for example, was a well-known socialite who operated in the same luxury circles that Meghan was breaking into. The two were never photographed together, but the overlap in social rosters and events is hard to ignore. The same guest lists, the same sponsors, the same headlines. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Right before her engagement to Prince Harry, Meghan began scrubbing the internet. Her lifestyle blog vanished. Instagram accounts were deactivated. Photos once proudly posted from lavish trips and exotic getaways disappeared almost overnight. The timing wasn't random, it was calculated. The goal was clear: rebrand, transform from Hollywood starlet to global duchess. But there's one thing celebrities always forget: the internet never truly forgets. Digital archivists and royal watchers began digging in. What they found was alarming. Old geotagged photos and metadata linked Meghan to locations where Epstein's circle was especially active. Europe in the early 2010s. Same regions, same timing, same parties. And though none of this proves wrongdoing, it raises a simple but damning question. If there's nothing to hide, why go to such great lengths to erase it? Because these weren't just random vacations. These were curated invitations. These were elite networks. And Meghan didn't just stumble into those rooms, she climbed her way in. And soon, people would start to wonder, just how far was she willing to climb? By now, most people know Meghan Markle as the modern duchessy woman who broke tradition, challenged the crown, and built a global brand on her own terms. But before the palace, before the headlines, and long before the royal title, Meghan was just another aspiring actress in Hollywood. And according to those who knew her back then, she wasn't waiting around for luck to strike, she was making calculated moves. A former friend from her early days in LA, someone who once shared small apartments, long casting lines, and late-night industry mixers, with Meghan recently came forward with a very different version of the woman the world thought they knew. According to her, Meghan wasn't just ambitious, she was strategic. Every room she entered, every party she attended, every social circle she found her way into was all part of a plan. She wasn't showing up for fun, she was showing up to climb. The friend claimed Meghan had an instinct for spotting power. If someone had a yacht, a connection to media, or a name that opened doors, Meghan would find a way in. She offered to help organize events, volunteered at the right charities, inserted herself into circles that could elevate her image, not for the sake of friendship, but for access. She was charming, no doubt, polished, approachable, but it wasn't about bonding. It was about aligning herself with people who could move her forward, and it worked. She went from obscure cable dramas to red carpet events in Cannes, From posting about avocado toast to casually vacationing on luxury boats with European billionaires. From networking at PR mixers to quietly entering the same luxury circles where future scandal would eventually explode. To be clear, this doesn't make her a criminal. It doesn't even make her unusual in Hollywood. But what it does do is strip away the illusion that Meghan's rise was purely about merit or chance. It wasn't an overnight success. It was the result of deliberate positioning. And while there's nothing illegal about chasing fame, the problem comes later when that rise is packaged as something it wasn't. When those strategic moves are rewritten as innocent coincidences, when the very past that helped launch her forward is suddenly denied, hidden, and buried beneath carefully worded press releases. Because behind the glossy rebranding is a woman who, by many accounts, played the long game and played it well. But what happens when that game gets exposed? What happens when the internet starts recovering the very moments she tried to erase? As Meghan's relationship with Harry went public, her past quietly vanished. Blogs deleted, social accounts wiped, old photos scrubbed. But the internet has a long memory. Digital sleuths uncovered geotagged posts from elite spots like Monte Carlo and Cannes hotspots linked to Epstein's circle at the time. No, Meghan wasn't seen with Epstein, but the social overlap was uncomfortably close. People aren't asking why she traveled, they're asking why she tried to hide it. If it was innocent, why erase it all? Because when you spend years scrubbing your history clean, it usually means there's something you don't want us to see. Before Meghan and Harry's engagement, the palace reportedly did their homework, and what they found, red flags. From erased social media to sketchy associations, insiders were concerned. But instead of raising alarms, the royal family stayed silent. Why? Because Harry had already chosen her hand after everything he'd been through. No one wanted to push back. The order was simple: don't rock the boat. That silence might have seemed like loyalty at the time, but now, it looks like a cover-up. The monarchy didn't just ignore the signs, they endorsed the version of Meghan the public was sold. And as the truth begins to surface, the palace's silence speaks louder than ever. As backlash grew, Meghan's team did what celebrity crisis managers always do: they flooded the media with fluff. Suddenly, stories appeared about baking with kids, mental health, and vague charity efforts, all timed just a little too perfectly. PR insiders call it media flooding. Bury the scandal under feel-good distractions, but this time, it didn't work. The public wasn't buying it. People weren't clicking on the vegan recipes or the inspirational quotes, they were clicking on the questions. Because you can post as many polished photos as you want, but if your audience thinks you're hiding something, the damage is already done. When the headlines don't match the questions people are asking, that's when the real unraveling begins. When things started to unravel, Meghan still had powerful allies Netflix and Oprah topping the list. But lately, even they've gone quiet. And in Hollywood, silence speaks volumes. Netflix once saw Meghan and Harry as media gold, but after lackluster results and canceled projects, insiders say the company is rethinking its investment. Meghan's cooking show shelved. Other content on hold. The buzz has faded on, so has the support. Then there's Oprah. She gave Meghan one of the most influential interviews in modern memory. But now, nothing. No statements, no posts, no follow-ups. Sources say Oprah's team is quietly stepping back not out of drama, but damage control. When your biggest media backers start pulling away, it's not just a PR problem, it's a red flag. Because in Hollywood, when the spotlight dims, it usually means someone's already seen what's coming. Meghan Markle's story was once sold as a fairy tale and outsider who rose above the noise, married a prince, and redefined royalty. But now, the cracks are showing. And they're not just in the palace walls, they're in the narrative she built around herself. What's upsetting people isn't who she was before the fame. It's the way she tried to erase it. Deleted blogs, scrubbed social posts, and a sudden reinvention that didn't just gloss over the past, it buried it. And when critics pointed it out, they weren't met with answers, they were met with silence. Or worse, accusations. It's not the yacht parties, the social climbing, or the old connections that bother people, it's the cover-up. The calculated attempt to reshape her image into something pristine and untouchable, while silencing anyone who remembers the version that came before. Because this controversy is not about the past, it's about credibility. And when the image you've sold no longer matches what people are starting to see, that image collapses. The question now isn't what Meghan's hiding, it's why she's trying so hard to hide it. Meghan Markle isn't on trial in a courtroom, but that doesn't mean she's off the hook. In today's world, the court of public opinion is often more brutal than any judge. And right now, the verdict is shifting. No charges, no lawsuits, but the real damage isn't legal, it's reputational. People aren't upset about her past. They're upset about the way she's tried to erase it. The carefully crafted brand, the vanishing posts, the silence when real questions start to surface, it all adds up. The more she pushes a polished image, the more people dig. And what they're finding doesn't match the version she's selling. Because when you build a platform on authenticity, but hide the truth behind PR and silence, people stop believing. And once trust is gone, so is everything else. No judge, no trial. Just millions of people asking, if there's nothing to hide, why bury it so deeply? If you've made it this far, one thing's clear: this story isn't over. In fact, it's only just beginning. New information is surfacing. Old allies are walking away, and the carefully managed image is showing more cracks with each passing week. So stay curious, keep asking questions, and don't be distracted by headlines designed to make you forget what's really going on behind the scenes. And if you found this deep dive thought-provoking, you'll want to stick around. We've got more stories coming, stories that pull back the curtain on the celebrities, institutions, and media empires that think no one's paying attention.